Hi, today we are going to learn about primary and secondary sources, what the difference is between them, and about cause and effect. On your social studies test, there will be these two topics, primary sources. You'll have questions about those, and you'll have questions about cause and effect of historical events. Now remember, on the social studies test, you do not have to memorize facts and dates. You will read a short passage. You need to have some background information about it, about that event, and then they'll ask you some questions about it. So let's get started on primary and secondary sources. First of all, primary sources are original records. They needed to be recorded by people that were either actually involved in it or actually were eyewitnesses. Or if, for instance, say a parent was involved in it, and this was a relative, son, daughter, spouse, that personally knew that person that was involved. Those would be historical primary sources. They can be artifacts like pottery when we go on archaeological digs. They can be photos or other visual evidence. What primary sources are is they give you an idea about what people at that time or event saw or thought. Keep in mind though, primary sources only give you one point of view, one person's side of the story, and therefore that person's bias or prejudice will and sometimes can come through on that. Remember, primary is somebody that was there, either in the event or witnessed the event or personally knew someone that was there. They can be printed publications, such as newspapers, if the newspaper interviews someone that was a witness to the event, or the person that writes it was actually in the event. They can be personal records, such as the diary of Anne Frank that was made into a story, a diary, a journal, even letters that were written, for instance, during the Civil War period. A letter written by a Civil War soldier to his mother or to his wife would be a personal record. They can be visuals, such as films, paintings, monuments, maps of that historical area. They can also be oral passages, passed down by word of mouth. I just talked about archaeological digs. They can be artifacts that we find. Now compare those to a secondary source. Secondary sources are created after the event. They can include written information by historians, but remember, it has to be after the event has taken place. They can be reliable and useful, but they cannot reflect what the people of that time period thought or felt. They might guess at it, but it is not an actual reflection. But on the other hand, they can include more than one point of view. They can include both sides of the story that were unavailable at that time. Therefore, they can be a more fair accurate of that event, a fair account of that event. Good examples, again, could be a newspaper telling us about that event. Biographies are something that is a really good example of a secondary source. If I were to write about the life of Chief Red Cloud, then that would be a secondary source. Textbooks are also secondary sources. Visuals such as charts and graphs, paintings about a historical event. We see visuals such as charts and graphs and tables compiling all the information at a later time. This article about Jay Leno, if it was an interview with Jay Leno, it would be primary if they interviewed him. This looks like it's got photos and handwriting, so that might be a journal, a personal journal. That would be primary. A painting of Mona Lisa that was done during that time period and about that time period would be primary. A book on the history of medicine, it's written after the fact, so it's secondary. Both of these are primary sources. It was written, this one was a newspaper article written by the people that witnessed the event, and it was written at that time. A map of our city at this time is a primary source. This is a photo or a painting of a picture of a person at that time, primary. Autobiography, auto meaning self. Ben Franklin wrote this about himself, so it's primary. An artifact of a telephone during a certain time period, primary. This was written after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, so it's secondary. Both primary because they show life at that time, were created at that time. So what you need to do is you're going to watch a short video on cause and effect. And yes, it is geared toward a younger age group, but it really has some good information and speaks clearly about what the differences are. After you have done that, then go to your assignment on Canvas. There's a link for a worksheet to practice primary sources. And then go to your IXL account, and there's an assignment on cause and effect. So please contact me if you have any questions, concerns, problems, getting onto IXL, submitting your assignments, whatever you need, I'm here to help you. And always remember that you can schedule a personal Zoom meeting with me, just send me an email, or you can just pop in during my office hours on Mondays between 1 and 2 o'clock. Talk to you soon.